Hey everyone, so in this video I want to share with you a few things that I wish I knew before becoming an environmental engineer. So I'm like 26 years old. There's a few things that I wish I knew before, like some decisions that I wish I had changed during college or even during some career fields right now. And overall some personal changes that I wish I had done earlier in life. So hopefully this video helps you out in deciding whether or not you should become one. Maybe it can help you personally, so you might have a personality change. Just overall small little pieces of advice like this. Alright, so the first thing that I wish I knew was that you don't really use everything that you learn in school. Actually, you don't use a majority of the things that you learn in school. So for example, you'll be learning things like maybe math, like basic things like calculus, derivatives, integrals, maybe differential equations, those advanced math classes. You might learn things like chemistry, organic chemistry. Even for your electives, you'll learn things like history and art and all those, to me, useless classes. All that stuff that you learned, you're not going to use it in the field at all. You'd be lucky if you actually use it. Even those environmental engineering classes that you took, all those concepts of water theory, water chemistry, what happens in a wastewater, maybe things like air pollution, air quality, all those particulate matters, and maybe you might have to calculate the formula or find the particle size of this particulate. I mean, it's great and all for school, and I know you have to do that for a class or a class project. It's very stressful during school, but all that time that you spent during school, none of that applies on the field, at least for my job. It doesn't really matter. There's much faster programs that calculate all this stuff for you, so you don't even have to know all that concept. All you have to do is just find the particle size that they probably give you already, or maybe you have to measure out in the field. Once you have that information, you just punch it in and it's all good to go. You don't waste any time doing that. Again, during school, they really focus on that just so they can see your critical analysis skills, or they might want to see where you're at, but in theory or in practice, they don't do any of that. It's just a waste of time. I say this because honestly, I'm looking back at it right now, it just sucks because I spent so much time studying for this test, spending at least 4 to 6 years doing this, but all of that is just a waste of time. Once you get one number, you just punch it in a calculator or you just punch it in the program. It takes 5 minutes to do. Why spend 10 weeks at school doing this when it just only takes 5 minutes in the field? So that just makes me regret spending so much time in class studying for this when in reality it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work hard, but I spent so hard trying to get that A+, but I could have just gotten away with getting a B or whatever, just being mediocre in a way for some classes. I'm not saying again to be lazy, but just realize that all that hard work that you put in, it's not gonna be so detrimental in your job. Next up is that having a high GPA and looking at your transcript, all that doesn't matter on a job. So when you apply for a job, most likely they're not going to be looking for a GPA. They just really care whether or not you have experience or whether or not you actually graduated with a degree, like engineering or whatever degree. They don't really care about your background, your history, because more than likely the person hiring you, they might not have had a high GPA either. So why would they really care about a student or an incoming applicant on whether or not they worked hard just to study for some elective class? Maybe you failed the history class, that really affected your GPA, but overall you're still a great engineer. So all I'm trying to say is that a GPA, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters for having a high GPA is if you want to go into higher education. So if you're applying for graduate school, then yes, they're going to look at your GPA, but if you're just going to go out, get a job, none of that matters. So don't waste so much time at school trying to get an A++, trying to get a 4.0 GPA when in the end of the day, a guy with a C+ and a guy with a 4.0 GPA, they're still going to be competing, and it's really, it doesn't even matter because they're all on the same level playing field. So personally, again, I'm just trying to say this because I regret working so hard for school and working for my GPA when it didn't really matter. So go out and enjoy life a little bit. The next thing that I wish I knew was that as an environmental engineer, it requires you to talk a lot. So you would think that being an engineer, you're just secluded in your own little bubble, just working in whatever task that some boss person wants you to do. You'd think that this is the perfect job for introverts, but it's not completely. It all depends on the position, but for me, I'll be talking to a lot more people than I am in my desk, and I still consider myself an introvert. I don't like talking to people, even though I'm talking to this camera right now and to other people who are watching. That doesn't mean I want to talk to you. It just means that I have to talk to you. So I would gladly spend time working alone in my cubicle if I could, but because my job requires me to meet with inspectors and talk with people, then I have to talk to them. It doesn't mean I'm gonna like love to talk to you and I want to go out and like I feel energized when I talk to people. It's just that I have to. So that's just the job. So that means if you're an introvert or you're just scared to talk to people, I mean, this might not always work with you. But I mean, in time you build up the courage and you just go out and talk to people because you have to do it. Overall, what I'm saying is that you don't have to enjoy talking to people. You just have to talk to people. That doesn't mean that you have to be an extrovert. It just means that you have to go out and, deal with people whether or not you like it or not. But it is good to like learn how to speak with people because throughout your entire life you're going to be dealing with people. You still have to go out and like talk to people. You can't just hide behind like a computer desk emailing people all the time because you're not going to get work done all the time. So you have to go out and like physically be there and project your voice and talk to people. So how that affects like you and me is that I wish I had gone out there during college and like actually went out to like events, reaching out to people, trying to connect with people and like growing my network in a way. Just because you'll be dealing with people, you'll feel more comfortable dealing with like other people on the job. You'll feel more comfortable like speaking out to people because now you have like that experience beforehand during college. You went out and like made friends. And lastly is that even though you have like a title as an engineer, like so you're in the same category as like a doctor, lawyer, engineer, you have that high prestigious title, that doesn't mean that you know everything. To be honest, when I got my job, I knew nothing. Like, yes, I graduated with a degree in engineering, but just because you have that title doesn't mean that you have that knowledge. And so like I knew nothing. I'm going into this position eager to learn and like eager to work, but all that school knowledge that you brought in, you think that you'd be using, like it doesn't matter. It means nothing. So people who are like messaging me, they're like worried about how they're underperforming during school. Maybe they're saying like, oh, I'm not good at math or physics or chemistry or some science or engineering. That means I can't be a good engineer. But no, that's completely false. You can still be a good engineer and not know anything during school. It's completely fine. And to be honest, people who don't do well in school, I think they're probably an even better engineer just because during school they really focus on like academics and like studying and memorizing, but as an engineer, as like an actual people person, they go out and like they build connections and they build that experience from scratch. So during school they really focus on one thing, but all that does not matter or doesn't even apply to the field or to the job. And so they have to learn, people who don't do well in school, they have to learn how to do well in the job to not get fired. So in a way, they're adapting to the situation. They're not doing well in school, so in order to make up for it, they have to do well on the job. So honestly, you just like adapt as you go. You learn every single day, you learn on a job. There will always be problems, and whenever there are problems, you're going to be learning how to deal with it. But for the most part, people just understand that, problems come and go, and people will learn from problems. So it's okay to not know squat diddly. Like you don't need to know anything. You just have to get your degree and prove that you're willing to learn. That's at least how I got my job. For the most part, like younger generations, you're not gonna have like 15 years of experience like what they say that they want to have on like a job description. Like it's impossible. Realistically, all you need to do is just be open-minded and then they'll hire you. At least that's how they should be. Yeah, so those are the like 4 things that I wish I knew before becoming an environmental engineer. I know it's very scary and like uncertain times right now, but for the most part, you don't need to worry too much about it because like we're all in this together. We are all coming out like not knowing everything and anything. So how can we even start if we're all in the same position, right? Just know like once upon a time, I didn't have this knowledge. I didn't know anything. But later on, you're going to develop those skills and that's going to apply to you. Once upon a time, you didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. But now, as time progresses and as life progresses, we know at least something. Alright, so I hope this video helps you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.